All right, welcome everyone. I know we're going to have people who are going to join probably in the next 5-10 minutes. So good to see everybody. Good to see new faces and familiar faces. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Sarah McAllister. I'm Senior Associate Director in the Office of Alumni Career and Professional Development. And we have Nina Raffo, who is our Assistant Director, and she will be all things tech. So if you have any questions or issues, feel free to direct message her. As you can see, we are recording today, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Nina will drop the link for the YouTube channel. So if you're not familiar with it, we have over 65 videos. Several of them are from Mauri, who is here with us today. So if you were able to join her session last month on job search strategies, we brought her back. So thank you for coming back so soon, Mauri, because so many of the questions were around interviewing, and she has a wealth of knowledge and information. And so we're really excited to have her back. As you can see, we're talking about interview tips. Mauri Schwartz is the president and CEO of Career Insiders, and she is based in the Bay Area. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Mauri. Thank you again, and excited to learn from you as always.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Nina. I'm happy to be here. Anything I can do with my Tulane folks that I never see anymore because I'm so far away. I'm always glad though, because to find out that when I talk to someone who's here in San Francisco who went to Tulane, or whose child or some is going to, graduating and going to Tulane, and that's fabulous. So thank you all for coming at your lunchtime. Whatever, I hope you're eating something yummy and nutritious and delicious. I have a lot to say, and we don't have a lot of time. I tend to talk fast anyway, so but if somehow I'm going too fast, signal to Sarah and Nina and let me know. And if you have a question, also let them know. I'm hoping to do questions as we move along, if we can do them quickly. Otherwise, we'll wait to the end. Okay, so that's that, and let's do this. So I have some strategies that I teach with interviewing, and most of them are not necessarily, they're not novel. You've probably all read enough stuff on the internet and heard a lot of things about how to interview. But my whole strategy in helping people get jobs is to be practical, is to sort of talk about it in a way that hopefully makes it visible and real. So here we go. These strategies have been proven. My clients have been using them year after year after year. Obviously, I try to stay up to date. So one of the things we're going to start off with is, well, hopefully, why am I not paging? There we go. I'm going to start out with just a few really quickly virtual interview tips. By now, 3.5 years after we all started doing Zooms and Teams and Google Meets, then we all think we know what we're doing. But I have to tell you, I meet with clients all the time, and I have to remind them of some of these features, these aspects that you need to consider when you're doing a virtual video interview. So here we go. Of course, virtual could be on the phone, but anyway, so let's say we're talking about video. Use a computer versus a phone if possible. It's just so much better. First of all, it's bigger. Even if it's a laptop, I'm using a small laptop now, but and you want to keep it stationary. So too often, if you have a phone, the angle is not right, or it's bouncing around. I have a friend, when we Zoom for social purposes, and she always has her laptop in her lap and it's always moving. So you don't want that to be, you want it to be on a table or a desk, and you want to have it so that your face is right in front of the camera. So you want to be at eye level with the camera. Ensure lighting is in the front and not from the back or only on one side. I know sometimes you might have your desk set up so that the light is behind you, or it comes from, there's a window on the side. You really need to focus on having light only in front, or maybe a little on top, but otherwise your face is going to be dark. And if your face is dark, that sets you off on the wrong foot from the beginning. Okay. Find a quiet spot, obviously, so that you don't have things going on around you and people and distractions. I will say I have a small puppy at my feet who is being very kind and quiet right now. So we'll see if she stays that way. So that's sort of going against my grain, but I can count on her most of the time to be good. Make sure your name shows up on the screen. So you see how mine says Mauri Schwartz. You want to put your whole name. If you want to put your pronouns, that's also great, but you really at least need your name, and you want the name that people call you. You don't want, I mean, if you have a nickname or, something that's like Jim instead of James, use Jim. So when people talk to you, they have your name. Okay, so ensure that there's enough internet bandwidth where you are. When you start sharing things, sometimes everything slows down. If you've got other people who use your Wi-Fi in your house or your apartment, then that can strain the resources that you have. So really try to make sure you can do this at a time where you have enough bandwidth to carry on the conversation. You don't end up freezing. And I'm only hoping that we don't have that today. Okay, make sure that sound and video are on. You know where that is. Use blur my background if your computer has this, or ensure that your background is simple and professional. So I choose not to blur my background for some reason. I don't like the way I look when I blur my background. So you can see if my head is in front of my San Francisco Giants. There are articles from the newspaper from our World Series wins in the last decade. Hopefully we'll win again. Okay, couple more. Look at the camera at all times. It's like looking at someone in the, when you're talking to someone, it's like, look them in the eyes. Now, yeah, if you're doing a long interview, you can look away for a moment or a few seconds and look back again so that you're not staring. But for the most part, you're looking straight at the camera. Turn off notifications on your computer and your phone so that they don't make any noises. And I'm turning off my phone as we speak. So, mine won't do anything. Okay, amp up your energy level and smile. So people don't want, there are all sorts of things going on in interviews. You get nervous and whatever, and people don't, they need to see some energy, because remember, they're thinking about hiring you, and they don't, you don't have to be a cheerleader. Obviously you don't want, unless that's who you are, but you want to, you want to be professional, but you want to show that you have some energy. So one of the things that I recommend, two things that I recommend for pre-interview, and this does both. It helps de-stress, it helps calm the nerves. Both of these help do that, and they give you some energy. And the one is music. You've probably heard that, and not quiet, relaxing music, even though that might normally help you with stress. You want some music that energizes you. I don't know if you like to dance or whatever. So then, I love New Orleans music. So, the old style music, that's very uplifting. I love all that brass. So that might be something I'd play. But you have to, you might not like that. So in the past, I live across the street from the ballpark where the San Francisco Giants baseball team plays. And 3 weeks ago, we had the Grateful Dead. And last night they had K-pop music, Blackpink. And, I hear them both. I hear it from my windows. So, I liked one better than the other, but they were both okay. So, that was fine. You choose what you like. The other is comedy. Make yourself laugh. So, and that really helps. I always said this because I like comedy and I like to laugh, but I did some digging, and I found that there is some research that shows that it calms your nerves and, makes you smile, right? So that's one thing. You want to be able to smile. Test everything out beforehand with the whatever application, whatever platform you're using, if it's Zoom or if it's Teams, just test it out so that when you get on what it's going to be like. Okay, now we're going to talk about interviewing. Here's the thing you have to think about. It's not what you want. Oh, yes, you're going to want to make sure you like the job and you like the people, and you can do all that sort of quietly. But when you go into an interview, you want to make them fall in love with you, right? One of my favorite phrases in job search strategy is, you cannot reject an offer that you never get. So you can't turn down an offer that they don't make to you. And if you're not all in on the interview, you're not going to go to the next step and you're not going to get the offer. So the point is, make them fall in love with you, and then the decision will be yours at the right time. Okay, so it's what they want. The person interviewing you, whether it's a recruiter or the hiring manager, they come to that meeting with you with a shopping list. And you've seen that shopping list because, 98% of the time it's based on a job description, a job posting that you've seen, whether they sent it to you in advance or whether you found it and then you applied. So it's what they want. That's what you want to think about. And they tell you what they want. So what you want to present to them is the part of you that matches what they want. Okay. So identify the top 4 or 5 qualifications they're looking for. What are their priorities? Obviously, they have a list, a longer list, but what if you were the person interviewing for that job, when you go in, they've got to have the candidate has to have at least these 4 or 5 qualifications. Identify those. For each of them, write a couple of sentences that describe your achievements that illustrate you fulfill these qualifications. So what have you done? What have you achieved that would prove to them that, you're up to the task for them because you've done it elsewhere? Write these out in complete sentences. I have to smile because I don't like doing that either, but it really, really helps. I remember when I used to interview, I would prepare and I would write out for the first 2 items, I'd write out whole sentences and explanations. And then then eventually I'd just do bullets. And then eventually I'd just do it in my head. Well, then when it comes time for the interview, do you really remember everything? And do you remember how you worded it? So you want to write them out in advance. You're not going to read them, even if you could paste them in front of you, your computer screen, if it's virtual. But you just want to practice them over and over again and memorize them. And what writing it out ahead of time does is it helps you form your thoughts. You might start explaining an achievement and then you get part of the way through and then you realize, oh, I should have said this other part first to present so that they have this information that I presented that would help them understand the achievement. Well, once you've written it out and reread it, you go, oh, I should do it that way. So by the time you get to the interview, it's worded correctly. Okay, we're going to talk about some interview questions. I would ask this if we were if it were easy for me to see you raise your hand, but since I can't, well, let's do that. Let's see if anyone can tell me what the 2 dreaded questions, the top 2 hated questions are, or the first one. What questions do people not like to, is anybody raising their hand?
What's your biggest weakness?
That is absolutely one of the top 2.
Hi, everyone. I think it's tell me about yourself.
Oops, there you go. So tell me about yourself. They're both of equal disdain. But if you have answers ahead of time, then guess what? You can answer it. Now, I will say, much to my happiness, what is your greatest weakness isn't asked as often as it used to be. It's still asked because I just had someone the other day, I did a debrief and they got asked this question. Since interviewers started using behavioral questions and things beyond yes and no, really, they don't need, this question is not needed, period. And it really isn't their business what your weakness is. All they need to know is, can you do what we need you to do well? So we're going to get into that in a second. And then tell me about yourself. That's it. Here, we're going to start with that one. I'll tell you how to answer these questions. We don't have time to go through every question you might get asked, but we can with these 2. So tell me about yourself. Remember, again, I'm going to keep repeating. It's what they want. Tell me about yourself. In my mind, so a lot of people say, okay, tell me about yourself. And they go, okay, they start I graduated from Tulane majoring in math, and then my first job was as a software engineer with IBM, and then by the time they get to the current day, then the interviewer is like, in dreamland. I mean, their eyes may be open, but they're not paying attention anymore, because the most important part of what you have to say is what you've done in the recent past. What have you done in the past 3 to max 10 years? That's what they're concerned about. If you did something a long time ago, then they figure, maybe you're not so good at it anymore, and you probably used old tools, and they have all sorts of prejudices. But so that's but a lot of people do that. I call that walk me through your resume, not tell me about yourself. So think about this. Pretend when they say, tell me about yourself, that they say, why should we hire you? So that's just answer that question and you'll have it done. So basically, remember I said, what I said about identify the priorities and write out what you've done that matches, and learn that is a framework. That's your framework to answer this question, is how you fit with them. What are your 3 greatest strengths? I say it's approximately the same question, because it's going to be the same thing again. Your strengths that you're going to talk about are going to be the ones that are relevant to this job, to the top priorities. So you may have all sorts of wonderful strengths, but it's not about what your real top 3 strengths are. It's about the ones that match what they're looking for. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this again. I think I've got this slide, something like it, in here 3 times, because I'm happy to, you can go to the recording and I can send the slides and everything, but I want to keep repeating this. Future performance is based on past performance. That's the whole idea here, right? So they figure if you've done it well for someone else, then you can do it well for me. Again, identify the top 4 or 5 qualifications or experience that are required. Write out your sentences and to describe achievements, not just I have done this, but achievements, specific achievements that illustrate it. Make sure your achievements are relevant to what they need. And this is your framework. So if you learn nothing else today, this is what you should know, because if you really do this, if you match your achievements, not just your skills, but your achievements to what they're looking for, that should enable you to answer a lot of questions they ask. So that's what you want to think about. Again, it's what they want. What is your biggest weakness? Now, so like I said, it's not asked as often as it used to be, but it is still asked. So it is my job to help you answer this question. I don't believe in giving them any ammunition to reject you. So I've asked a lot of hiring managers, do you ask this question? And most of them say no now, but every now and then I get someone that says, oh, sure, I thought we're always supposed to ask that question. Well, that's like a lame reason for sure. And then I get other answers like, well, I don't care what they say. I just want to see how they react to the question. Well, I think that's pitiful, because it's not about reaction. It's about trying to, get to know you and know that if you and understand whether or not you'd be good for that job in their organization. And the third reason I get is I don't care what they say. I want to see if they can, fairly evaluate themselves. Everybody has something, and usually an interview is all about the positives. I just want to see if they understand themselves. Well, for one thing, reasons 2 and 3, if you say something that would turn in their mind, they would think, well, that's not good for us here, then they are going to care what you say. So how I advise you for this question is to talk about something that might have been maybe not a weakness, but something that you've learned over the years. So if you were once, if you're a manager and you were once an individual contributor, you could say, well, when I was early in my career, I ended up in roles where I had multiple managers giving me, assignments, and I just tried to do everything for everybody, and I got worn out. And then, over time, I finally realized that that what I should do is really sort of set expectations and ask more questions to say, okay, let's see what's more important, what really is the highest priority. So that's one way. If you're a manager, you could say, if you were an engineer, you could say, I really am a problem solver. I cut my teeth on doing math and science and engineering problems, and I really like doing that. But I'm a manager now, and I had to learn. And so when we would have an issue on my team, I would try to come up with an answer and then see if anybody else came up with the same one. And then finally I started realizing, and they weren't too happy with me about that, my attitude about it. So finally I had to realize I did get some pushback. So I realized that I needed to let them come up with the answers, and then let's talk about them and let them shine. And actually they came up with some good things that I might not have thought of. So these are just some examples and how you present them. What would you like to improve? Now that's a different way. They could ask both questions. So that I would focus on something that's not as important to the job, not essential, but something that's relevant to the workplace. It could be your public speaking, if it's not a public speaking job, something like that. Okay, are we happy with these? All right. Okay, thank you. Whoever you are at the bottom of my screen without a name, with the glasses and the beard nodding and the smile. That's you. Okay. Why do you want to leave your current job? So here's the thing, and there's another. So why do you want to leave your current job? Be sure you don't ever want to knock some place or some people you've worked with in the past. No negatives, unless there are some things that could say, I really want to grow and learn new things, and they're small, and I don't, I'm just looking for some place where I can continue to grow. So that's really what, and learn, or you never want to fall into saying, oh, they were just mean, I didn't agree with the manager, we had a difference of opinions, or on strategy, nothing like that. Just make it about a positive, about where you want to go and what you're looking for. And oh, by the way, I'll get to that in a second. And sometimes you'll be in an interview and they'll say, oh, did you work for so-and-so? I knew them, and I heard they're really asshole. They're an asshole. And do not fall for that. It could be true, but this is not something you want to go into. You could say, well, I actually didn't work for him, or it was all okay when I was there. So anyway, just don't fall for it. What are you looking for? They're going to always ask this question, or they should. What do you want to do? And what you want to do is what they're asking you to do, right? So otherwise, why are you here? If you're looking for something different, you don't say, oh, I really want to do this other thing, but I need it. I don't see any jobs for that, so I'm here interviewing for this job just in case. Match it up and be able to explain why, what you like in that role. Why are you applying for this job? So what you want to do is you could combine all these. If you get asked the first one, you could end up answering 1, 2, and 3. So you could say, I'm looking for, blah, 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 and, I see in this role at your company or at company X that, this would give me an opportunity to do that. And, I also am attracted to the company because I understand, I've heard that it's really good with its employees and, blah, blah, blah. So those that you could answer them all, and then you don't have to wait for all the questions. Okay, let's move on. Walk me through your resume. Remember, I said that's a different question than tell me about yourself. So basically you start at the bottom and you go up to the present day and focus on the pieces of your jobs that are relevant to this job. So let's say your first job, and spend only a teeny amount of time for the old stuff. You don't have to go in detail because you want to get to the present time as fast as possible. But you still have to give them some information. So even if one of those jobs, what's relevant to the job you're interviewing for was only like 15 or 20% of the role, that's what you talk about. At so-and-so, I had a chance to work on some things, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so so you get that idea. Just focus on what's relevant to them. Sometimes I want to know why you left one of those jobs. And again, no negatives, just say, well, I was able to get a lot more money. You can say that. I was able to, do whatever. So those are, again, positive, not negative. Okay, so you want
Hey,
to
Mauri.
create, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Jacob just raised his hand. I think he has a question.
Okay. Oh, you got, now I see your name. Okay. Yes, Jacob.
Thank you so much, Mauri. This has been awesome. On questions like the one you just asked, talk me through your resume, I find I sometimes get stuck in how my mindset has shifted since I was in college. But I realize that maybe that I don't really care how my mindset has shifted. Do you think that our journey and like how we've grown matters in that? Or should we really stick more to the facts and the successes
Stick
we've
to the facts
experienced?
unless there's a switch. So I mean, my own journey is definitely where I am now is not close to where I ended up being, although I still have the same skills and things, but I've evolved, I've developed a lot more. So you can, when you're talking about, well, I was a software engineer, and then I started wanting to do more people-oriented, problem-oriented, business problem. So I might mention that briefly, but you don't go into a whole philosophical thing for them. That's in the back of your mind. They don't need to know all that because they're not really interested. So maybe some other time. I mean, they might be a little interested, but you want to get through that interview having talked about everything they need to know about you. So if there's time, some other time, and you want to do that, then you're fine. But you can say, like I just did. I really realized my head was down in the code. I wasn't getting to know people. So, I mean, that's like half a sentence or sentence. So it doesn't take you long. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, and I see why the reason why I don't see your name is it's the way that it's displayed on my screen. When you popped up to the top of the list, I did see it. So thank you. You did put your name on there. Okay, good. What are you most proud of? So you want to create a portfolio of success stories because they want to know what you did well, and they want to know what you did well that's relevant to what they want you to do. So you don't want to just say, I did so and such, and you don't want to say, well, I would do this what you want to do is if they say, tell me about a time they want you to tell them about a specific time. So could be, what are you most proud of? Then that's definitely going to be work related, and it's going to be some project or something that's relevant. Some of these are similar questions. I mean, the answers are would be the same story, but they're asking in a different way. Describe your most important success and why it was important. But if you have a portfolio of success stories, then you can pull them out, at these different times. What are your greatest accomplishments? And it could be in your career, it could be in your current job, and they may say specifically about another job. So if it's on your resume, be able to talk about it. Don't ever say, oh, that was such a long time ago, I don't really remember. I get that all the time. And what annoys me is I get it from people who've been in the workforce for maybe 10 years. And so that goes, what do you mean that's a long time ago? But anyway, don't ever say that. Always know be able to talk about what's on your resume. What's the most challenging aspect of your current or a previous job? So know what's challenging. What do you, so this isn't so much a success story, but what do you like best about your job and least? So if you like something best, don't have it be something that you won't get it, or you're not sure about getting at the job you're interviewing for. For instance, I like the fact that it's fully remote. If that job you're applying for isn't fully remote, do not say that. They're going to say, then why are you talking to us? And the same thing with least. I don't like because I have to go into the office every day. Well, really and you might not have an answer to least. I really like my job. I would still be there, but they did, they had a cutback and they laid off 10% or 15% or 20% of the workforce. So you know, being laid off is not something to be ashamed of these days. It's just, you know, you even if you're the only one, basically just say I was caught up in a layoff. And but anyway, so you know, you don't have to have anything least. You do have to have something best. Okay. But even it could even be, well, I like everything. But you have a specific, I like everything, but I would say that this is one of the things I like my manager. Okay, behavioral questions. We're all getting to know what this means, even though it's been in the vocabulary here for 20 years or so. But behavioral questions are about the past. Tell me about a time when. Describe a situation when. And this is what I say, you need a time, you need a situation. And what you want to think about is, first, relevant. Is it relevant? And then you want to choose the most recent example that's relevant of this, that matches the question. So you want to try to stay recent, current job, most recent job, the one before that, but you want it to be relevant. So sometimes you have to dig back, but try to keep it that way. Okay. Situational questions are about the future. What would you do if? Okay, now some situational questions are case studies, and they want you to come up with an answer. We're planning to go into a new market, and and usually they'll give you time to prepare finding well, you're not going to find, you could find a solution, but most of them, they're not about finding the solution. They're not going to, want you to do for them what they need to spend 6 months to a year doing in the company. Although some do, but then we have to watch out for that. But what they want to know how you think. And here's something about situational questions. If they said, what would you do if they were questions like, what would you do if an employee came up to you and said, I don't like such and such, I'm going to report you. To whom, I don't know. Then what a good thing to be able to do is, if you had that, even though they're about hypothetical future what ifs, you can answer by telling them about a similar situation you've handled in the past. Now that works. What would you do if it's a management question or something like that? It doesn't work if it's if it's a problem they want you to think out. So I could do a whole presentation on case studies, so we're not going to get into those anymore, except to say they want to know your thought process, and you may have to make some assumptions and state your assumptions, or you may have to ask some questions, and then they say, well, you just figure it out. Then you make some assumptions. Okay. Behavioral questions. The star. You're a star. Yes, you're like a meteor. Well, they're not the same as stars, are they? Well, either way, you're rising. STAR, it stands for situation, task, accomplishment or action, and result. So in all of those success stories in your portfolio, you want to describe a situation. And even in the, when I said, write out the 4 or 5 priorities and write out what you've done, you want to talk to the interviewer in a way that says that you've presented the situation, you've presented what you're supposed to do to fix it. What did you do and what was the result? So many people forget the R. So let's say I'm the CFO, and I am actually the accounting manager. Let's put it that way. I'm the CFO, and I get the salespeople come to me and they say, we can't sell because we don't have enough product. Why is that happening? We can't sell because we can't deliver on time. So then actually the president, and it gets down to the CFO, and the CFO finds out that, well, we can't, the CFO comes to me and says, fix it, Mauri. So what I find out is that we're not getting product because we're not paying our bills on time. And why aren't we paying our bills on time? We've been selling a lot. We should have money. And then I go, well, that's because our customers aren't paying their bills on time. And they're not paying their bills on time because our invoicing and billing system is ancient and screwed up. So, okay, you're not going to say all of that stuff. I'm sorry to make this so complicated, but my task is to fix that. What I did was we got in a whole new modern system, and the result was we improved the payments, the accounts receivables, so that we were getting an average payment of average of 45 days for all of our receipts. Okay, so I got a little complicated there, but you get the idea. Don't forget the result. Don't stop it. I put in a new system. Next time I'm going to come up with a better story. Okay, let's move forward. Describe a situation when you took leadership and showed initiative. How did you change things? And you want it to be a way, you know, so, and then a situation where you change or improve the process of the same idea. Tell me about a time when something went wrong and what you did about it. So it might be something that was out of your control. I mean, you know, something else went wrong. Somebody else wasn't delivering what they should to be. What did you do? How did you fix it? Sometimes things go wrong and we can't fix it, but try to come up with a story when you can talk about what you did that saved the day. Okay, maybe you couldn't get what the customer wanted in 30 days. You couldn't do all of it, but you could do part of it in 30 days. You know, what was this, you know, how did you, did you negotiate with the customer, etc. So these are things of the improving processes. If you put in a new system, like I just said, then you want to talk about how much you improved the system from the old way to the new way. Okay, the whole idea here is to show them you have the qualifications, to show them you have done what, something close to or what they're looking for, and to show that you've made an impact. And if you can have it be measurable with numbers, great. If some things aren't, it could be you established the first ever process to, a user manual for doing the billing system. Okay. Describe a situation when you had to reconsider how you would solve a problem and change it and why. So you're going down a path and then you go, uh-oh, we could do this better. A situation when you made a mistake and what you did about it. In the old, a while back with the tech companies would also describe a failure. And, and you might get asked that way too, but it's the same question. It doesn't have to be a complete failure. Fail is a really strong word. I don't like that so much, but depends on the meaning. Describe a situation when you disagreed with a coworker or manager and what you did about it. How did you resolve that? Hopefully you have a situation where the answer was not to go above and get someone else to tell the person to do what they should do. Hopefully it's something you could work out together, but you do what you need to do to solve the problem. Okay, describe a situation where you had to explain something to someone who didn't understand what you were talking about. Maybe you're highly technical and you were trying to talk to the CFO about that system, and the CFO really didn't want to know all the super technical stuff. So you had to figure out how to speak in their language. Okay, do you have any questions for me? That's not for you guys yet, but you get this question, right? And always have questions. Do not ever say, no, Sally answered all my questions, I'm good. Always ask questions, and ask questions that are relevant to the job and that show you understand what the job is. So if Sally has answered your questions, ask them again to the new person. That's okay, because you might get different answers, and then that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Ask questions that show you've done some homework on the job and the department or the company. So for instance, you've done some research and you found that the company has been going on an acquisition spree. So you want to say, well, I understand you've been acquiring a lot of smaller companies lately. How does that affect the work in your team? Ask organizational questions. Who will I be working with most every day? What people, what departments in the organization will I will I be in contact with, interacting with on a regular basis? You know, how's that going? How's your work with the sales department now? So it's not a negative, it's just kind of going, how's it going? If you read that their stock is, you know, going down the tubes, don't use that as the question that you want them to know you've done your homework. Okay. Okay, before you leave, what? Tell them you're interested in this opportunity. It's okay for you to say, I like you, I want to see you again, right? You can be the first to do that. So I'm interested. Can you tell me what the next step is in your hiring process? Some places now give you the whole thing up front. I love that. When some don't tell you anything. When do you expect to make a decision? They should want to tell you the timing if they know it, because then you don't bug them every day to follow up. You know when to follow up and when not to. When should I expect to hear about next steps? Some of these questions also, if they haven't given you an idea, like, oh, we want to bring you back to see some other people, this might tell you, give you an idea of how they answer that, might give you an idea of how they're feeling about you. Okay. And so after the interview, here's the thing that someone's going to answer for me. What happens next? Okay, we have 9 more minutes. We're at the end. So somebody's got to.
Well, of course, I'm old school, so I would send a thank you note. That's what I would do.
Well, you're exactly right. Old school is new school. It's now. You should, yes, it's the polite thing to do. It's etiquette. You always say thank you. You want to write an email, and you want to do it as soon after the interview as possible, while it's still fresh in their minds. If you waited a couple of days and you go, oh, Mauri said to do, then it's okay, but just try to think about it as the last step in the interview. So say thank you. And I'm going to tell you what to say, because it's not just saying thank you, the etiquette way. It's a way to continue to sell yourself. So the 4-hour thank you letter starts out with, remember, help the person remember you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the financial analyst position this morning and how my successful audit experience makes me an excellent candidate. Right? So, okay, yeah, I talked to the person on the other end, talked to that person and how nice they're writing me, but they reminded me about their audit experience. Reinforce. So the reinforce and the next are, the remember is, you know, sort of the basic. Reinforce, think back over the interview. Think about something that they responded positively to, you know, that you got positive interest from that person, and reinforce that. So as we discuss my success in community relations here, along with my previous experience managing teams, or strengths I will bring to this management role. So you just want to remind them, reinforce something that went well. And the next one is recoup. What about something that didn't go as well as you wanted to? Could be you want to improve an answer, could be by adding on to it, or you could say, I thought back over that and here's what I would do. So that could be recoup. I remember, when we talked about, it could be something that you had in your Team A framework. Tell me about yourself. And no matter what you did, to try to keep getting all that information in, there was something that you didn't get a chance to talk about that that it's important that they know about you. So that's what you can put in here. And to recoup, to give them some more information. You walk out and you go, I should have done that. Okay, last one is to remind them. And that's to remind them of a commitment, or maybe it's not, a commitment is too strong a word, about meeting again. So, you just remind them, the person, what they told you about the next steps. So that's my thank you letter. I told you this was going to be three times that we're going to talk about this. Future performance is based on past performance. Identify the top 4 to 5 knowledge, experiences required as stated in the job description. Write out 2 to 3 complete sentences for each that describe what achievements. Make sure your achievements are relative to what they need, and use the STAR approach to describe each of them. So it's not what you want. What is it? I'm just asking one more question.
What they want.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So there we go. I just want to say I'm here for, another 5 minutes or so to answer any other questions you have. I see there's some chats listed. I want to also tell you, as Tulanians, if you choose to want to use my services one-on-one directly, then Tulanians get a 10% discount. Any affiliation with the school, an alum, a student, an employee. Okay, I'm ready for those questions.
Okay. So the first one is, what if indecision is a weakness? How do you answer that?
What if indecision
Is a weakness?
I wouldn't talk about. Oh, did they ask specifically, or that they're saying this is my weakness? Should I?
Yes, I believe that's what they're saying.
Do not tell them that indecision is your weakness. Don't use something that's well, think about the job, think about what the job entails. And, even if they don't want you to make a lot of decisions, it's a weird thing to say in an interview.
Okay.
Just work on it, on your own.
Perfect. All right. This one has to do with federal interview questions. And so the question is, I am seeing a lot of 30-minute interviews happening because of the massive number of applicants. They usually don't ask you any behavioral questions or tell me about yourself. They already have 3 to 5 technical questions to ask. How do I address that?
Well, you got to do what they put in front of you. So, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do your best, but you just have to be able to, I think they sometimes give you those questions in advance, but maybe not. Just know your stuff.
Okay. And then I guess too, right, back to your 4 R's, like that's an opportunity to include information in the follow-up, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the next one is, I understand flagging that you've done something before during the interview, but what about when interviewing for a position with duties you have not yet done in other jobs, when going for a promotion, skill sets that are transferable work, but what is the best way to set that up?
So is the question, have you ever done this, or is it you want to be able to let them know that you'll be able to tackle something new? I would tell stories about when other times when you've walked into, almost every role has stuff that you haven't done before. You hopefully, so you want to you want to be able to have stories that talk about when you were in a role and when you took on something new and how you did that to be successful.
And then this is a pretty easy, quick question. Someone's asking if you could share the slide, the PowerPoint with the
Yes.
attendees. Great. Okay.
Through you.
Yes, we'll handle that.
Okay.
And then the next question is, how do you handle the question, give me your elevator pitch in 30 seconds?
Team A, tell me about yourself. You've already got it prepared.
Perfect. Do you think that's not sending a thank you note changes their mind to hire you?
No, I don't know. If you're not qualified for the job or they didn't like you for some reason, sending a thank you note is not going to get you that job. But it can, if there's a question between you and another candidate, or if they're sort of on the edge and you write a good thank you letter that could say, okay, well, we'll bring in fact, I just had a client say that to me. He's fairly certain that because he was sort of not completely qualified for the job, but he's going back for a second interview, and he was pretty certain that it was because of what he wrote in his thank you. So if you're it's not going to change. It's rare that it changes anything totally, but it can help you. It can help them think about you. So it's worth doing.
Are there questions to test if you want to work for them? Is there some question that you can ask which can assist you in identifying bad cultures or environments?
The questions about the organization are good. So you can, when you ask about the people you'd be interacting with and how are those relations going with the current person, you could ask things like, is this a new role or am I replacing someone? And if you're replacing someone, oh yeah, well, just curious as to why they left. So you can slip in things like that so you can get an idea. You can also, I really, most everything's done remotely now, but I have to say that having some in-person interviews really helps get to know someone. There's the time before and after when you're arriving. If you're inside the organization, you can, sort of look around and see how people are doing. When you get the offer, if you have some questions left, then maybe you can go with that. You can ask questions like, why did you come to this company? Why did you join the company? What do you like best about it and least? You can ask those questions of the person you're interviewing with.
Okay. How do you balance talking about career ambitions without having the hiring manager think you are using this position as a stepping stone?
Well, I would stick to the position at hand. So, and I would, in terms of growth, you want to use something more generic about, I'm always looking to grow and gain, more responsibility in any job that I have.
Okay. How do you ask about work-life balance to find out how many hours are expected for the job?
I think so you don't ask that question, first of all, but you can ask again, what do you like best? What do you like least? Especially if you're talking to someone who's going to be a peer, you can find out how they feel about it. They'll tell you.
I also like the question of kind of walk me through what a week, like an average week, like. I think that can also help.
And you can ask, so, they're like with a lot of jobs, there are times when you need to work extra hours to complete a project. And so you could say, I understand there will be times when, additional work is required. And, is that an ongoing, I mean, this is a little bit iffy, but, is that about how often does that happen?
Oh, that's good.
You don't ask it too much because you don't want them to think you don't want to work. That's why I say don't ask those work-life balance questions right directly, because then they'll go, oh God, this guy's not going to want to do what we need to do to get the job.
Well, that was the last of the questions.
Oh, goody.
This was great. Do you want to just kind of close us out with any final thoughts?
Sure. Actually, anybody's here's my business phone. It's not a cell phone, so I don't think it takes text, but my email always works as far as I know. So feel free to reach out to me. So we talked and let me know what's on your mind. Good luck out there. It can be difficult these days. There's a lot of competition. It's just interesting. How the economy goes, and I think that hiring is on the slight increase, and it will be as people realize we're not going to bottom out tomorrow. So we never know how politics are going to affect our economics, but I do think there's a rosy future, and this is a good time to be coming to this workshop because the summer slowdown is just about over. So I'd love to help you all individually, but I'm happy to be here today, and thank you for sitting in with me.
Thank you, Mauri. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.